I came here for the lamb, and now I'm coming home with some Voracious.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers.
So, if you could design a beer for Voracious, what would it have? What would its components be? Or
Well, that's a really good question.
I presume you've thought of this before.
I haven't actually thought
Oh,
of it.
okay. All right, let's break it down.
I mean, I think it would have to be a stout.
Yeah.
I think I would want it to be pretty complex. I feel our book has a lot of layers, so maybe some cinnamon in there, some little ancho chilies.
But stuff that's an aftertaste that you don't hit right away, because that's what Voracious does.
Yes.
It surprises you with its content after you judge it by the surface.
Right.
So it's got to be hidden in there.
Maybe some green chilies, because
Okay.
that is something from the West that they eat a lot.
Okay.
Have you ever had that red or green chilies?
Yes. Yeah.
Christmas. That's what I want in my beer.
There's a lot of places around here that just give green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're not out west.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair enough.
So yeah, I think that would be it has a full body, high ABV.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but before we're done, going to see if you can come up with a name for it.
Okay.
I mean, aside from just Voracious, because obviously that's what you would want to call it. But, as we were talking about Beer Hates Astronauts, that's a nice play on God Hates Astronauts plus it's beer.
Right.
Beer.
How about delicious?
I was going to say Beeracious.
You just wanted to see if I would come up with that.
Which you shouldn't, because it's terrible.
It's really bad.
All right, so this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast on the Yak Channel Podcast Network in Chicago. And this episode is like a throwback because it's being recorded in Challengers like it used to be back in the day. And I say in Challengers, but it's in Sidekicks. So hopefully we have less noise from the outside because, all glass wall, you hear trucks go by and all that kind of stuff. But this is not a normal What Happened in the Week of Comics episode. It is a conversation, as we are Challengers Comics and Conversation, with co-creator of the wonderful Voracious comic book, Markisan Naso.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Pat.
Of course. Thank you for being here. And this is weird because this is like right at the start of the afternoon on a Monday.
Yes.
And I love the fact that we both can do it then. I mean, I'm not working today.
Yeah, well, as a freelance writer and editor, I get to make my own schedule.
You're technically working right now.
I'm working.
Yeah.
This is part of it. Yeah,
Wait, are you going to invoice me at the end of this?
Not you, but the Lyft ride will certainly go on the taxes.
Totally fair. Totally fair. So what we're going to be talking about today is obviously your book and where the book came from, but you and your love of comics and where that came from. And while I hope these aren't questions you've had a million times before, I assume the people listening haven't heard these answers before. So
yeah, I haven't gotten a lot of questions about how I started in comics or
Yeah.
the early years when I started reading comics. So that'd be great.
Because you and I go way back to downtown in the early aughts.
Right, the
right?
graham crackers years.
Yeah, way back in another life. Because that's where I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left there, and I seem to remember you doing a lot of movie reviews at the time. Is that a thing that you were doing?
No, well, I worked for a website for comics.
Okay.
I worked for a few websites for comics, actually.
That sounds like an interesting thing. Do those exist anymore? Websites for comics?
Yes. It was silverbulletcomicbooks.com.
Oh, okay. I've heard of them.
And I wrote a rumor column. I actually took the rumor column over from Rich Johnson.
Oh. Johnston with a G, yeah.
Which I didn't really enjoy doing that much. I kind of moved it more into an interview column.
That's more enjoyable because
so
rumors, we won't get into how damaging rumors can be. I mean, unless they're legit, but...
Well, I would always email the parties involved and ask them for their opinions on it. I remember Jeff Johns sent me a message just before he got really big and saying, hey, if you ever get anything on me, please let me know and I will give you a quote on it.
A quick side story. when Challengers first opened and our website was all interactive and you'd have a user account with your real name and you'd be able to comment and do things. I was at it was a convention, Philadelphia, I think. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Johns came up to me in the bar afterwards and said, "Hey, I heard about your website. I heard what you're doing. I want to be involved. Send me a link. I want to sign up. I want to do it." Gave me his email address. I sent him all the stuff. Have never heard from him again.
Wow. Well, working for Silver Bullet was pretty cool because I remember Darwyn Cooke, he was saying things about Frank Miller online.
Yeah.
Really bad things.
Okay.
And that's the kind
of thing.
Probably
true.
Probably. But that's the kind of thing that people like in rumor columns, and so I had to put it in there. But I sent him a message and asked him, if this is a crazy thing you said. Did you maybe want to walk that back? Do you want to comment on it? And he did, and he actually apologized for it because it was like personal slander. He was in the heat of the moment. But what happened was he was very appreciative of that. And so I actually did a few articles, interviews for the Comics Journal.
Yeah, I remember. I don't want to cut you off, but I remember when he passed, they reran. Was it a long form that you had done? Yeah. Very exhaustive, very extensive piece.
Yeah, it's the most extensive piece, and they wanted to interview him, but he wouldn't do it unless I did the interview. He requested that I do the interview.
That's fantastic.
Yes, and so it was 40 pages, I think,
with
him.
Yeah, I remember. I specifically, because it was, I do remember them rerunning it after he passed.
Yeah. And then, they reran it, and then they asked me to do a eulogy for him. So I also wrote a long eulogy piece to him that kind of covered all the great work that he did and talked a little bit about our friendship. And I detailed some of that, what I just told you, the story.
Yeah.
So I started off doing that kind of stuff, Silver Bullets, and then I started writing for Sequart.org. And they do a lot of, it's almost like scholarly dissections of comic books. They do a lot of books that talk about, what these books mean, or they'll spotlight writers. Like they did a movie on Warren Ellis about his whole life. They did a movie on Grant Morrison.
Yeah. Okay, we know those guys because they did. We did something with them for one of their films. I forget what it was, but we did a screening here for the Grant Morrison one.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so those guys are really great.
In this very room. In fact, it was on this wall
cool.
that was beamed. We had to rent a projector and stuff. Yeah.
I should have come out for that. I don't know why I didn't.
It was a very long time ago. It was obviously.
Yeah. So I started doing that, and that's where I did like comic book reviews. I did one movie review for It Follows, I believe.
Oh, all right.
And then I did a podcast for them too. It's called Colloquium. And it was a one-on-one conversation with a creator focused on a singular piece of work.
Okay.
So it would be like a 2-hour conversation about one work.
So a deep dive.
Really deep dive, yeah.
Cool. Very cool. We're not going to get as deep into things here because we want people to discover those things on their own. And
Right.
we're approaching this as if a majority of people listening may not have read Voracious. But, and I do want to say one of the reasons, not the other reason, but one of the reasons we're actually having this conversation is because you and your colleague, Jason Muhr, will be here. I mean, you're here now, but you'll be here for an all-day event later in June on Saturday the 22nd.
Yes.
From 11 to 3. So we're trying to get people to hear this and say, I want to see that guy, and come and get the book. And obviously, you guys are great at touring and promoting your work, and you understand that you have to saturate your customer base. You have to, as people would occasionally say to me, like, hey, do you mind if we sign somewhere else? Like, yeah, you need to sign everywhere. You need to sign at every shop you can, because people are very territorial where they shop, and just because you sign right here in Bucktown doesn't mean you shouldn't sign, downtown at Andersonville and Wrigleyville or wherever else. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. And you guys are good at that. You set up little tours, and also you do some really fun signings at like butcher shops and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Which is a reason for that, but we'll get to that later. So also I keep saying we'll get to it later, and then in my back of my head I'm like, I hope I remember to get back there because I don't follow any outline. But
Well, I agree with you about the comic shop. So we just did a release day signing for
Yeah.
Voracious Appetite for Destruction at Chimera's Comics in LaGrange. And I've never even been out there before, and nobody knew about the book.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was cool to introduce new people to the book, even though it's not only an hour from
Sure.
where we are.
So is that a thing you approach them, they approach you?
In that instance, there was an owner of a shop that used to be out called Defiant Comics, but it closed down.
Yeah.
Brian, and he was friends with Danny, who was the manager over at Chimera's, and he suggested that we do a signing out there.
Cool.
And so I just got in touch with her, and she's like, "Can you do it on the release day?" And so that's
Yeah,
when we
of
set
course.
it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I always like to come back to my favorite shops. That's why I always like to sign at Challenges. And you guys seem to always want us to come out.
Of course.
So.
Like, you don't even have to ask us anymore. It's just a given.
Right.
Yeah, and the way we like to do it with you guys is, because what's coming up is Voracious Volume 3, which is Appetite for Destruction, and it's another 6-issue miniseries.
It's 5 issues.
5 issues, sorry.
But they're all oversized, so it's
Okay.
like you're getting 6 issues.
Got it. Because we'll usually do the first issue of the new volume and then the trade. So there's for people who are just starting or for people who miss it kind of thing.
Right.
And at this point, it's only more beneficial for new people to come in, because now it's like, hey, if you're interested in what you hear either right now in this episode or what you see when you're at the signing, you've got these other volumes to catch up on. And you know what? Fine, we'll talk about the book now, since I keep alluding to it. On the surface, Voracious, and I'm going to talk about this from a generic shop owner's point of view, like how I'd be telling somebody who has never read it before.
Okay.
Because this book just kicks you in the gut as it goes along and completely changes what the book is about, which obviously you knew going into it, but you can't tell somebody that. You can't tell them how, oh no, this is changing genres completely from what you think it is. I liken it to Southern Bastards. Did you read Southern Bastards?
I've read the first trade.
The first trade is exactly what I'm talking about, because it starts as this small town Southern revenge story, like a Walking Tall. And it's good. But then you get to the epilogue of the first volume when his daughter is introduced.
Right.
And you think, oh my God, this is not what I thought this book was going to be at all. And that's what Voracious does, but in a completely different and much larger way. And the basic premise of Voracious is it is a down-on-his-luck chef who discovers, or I guess is bequeathed, a time machine. And he accidentally goes back to the land of dinosaurs and accidentally realizes that dinosaurs are delicious. So he opens, in the present day, a restaurant that serves dinosaur meat. But you can't tell anybody you're serving dinosaur meat, because no one will believe you, and then they think you're insane. So it starts like that, but that is not what the book is about. So how do you pitch it to people at shows or at signings?
I mean, I usually pitch it similar to what you just said.
Okay.
I say it's about a chef who travels through time, kills dinosaurs, and serves them at a restaurant in the present. And that's the high-level pitch.
Yeah.
Of course, there's so much going on. Now, it depends. Sometimes people come up, and if they're not into that pitch, because let's face it, there's a lot of people who might not be into that. They don't want to
Sure.
see dinosaurs being killed.
Or they
Maybe
just don't
they're
want a book
vegan.
about a restaurant.
Right, or they don't care about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then I might go into talking about the characters and about how the book is really about loss. Because the lead character, Nate, in the beginning, he's doing really well in New York City. His restaurant explodes, and his sister's killed. And so he does not feel like cooking or doing anything.
By the way,
in his
when he
life.
says explodes, he doesn't mean blows up on the scene. He means blows up.
Yeah, kerboom, yes. And so he moves back to Utah, where he's from. And he just doesn't know what he's going to do with his life. And it isn't until he tastes the dinosaur that he gets that feeling for cooking again that he had before. But, of course, that comes with massive problems.
And a huge cost. And what I love about what you said before about how you could change the pitch, because it could be, hey, it's a drama about a restaurant. Hey, it's a love story. Hey, it's a sci-fi time travel story. And then the further you get into it, it's like Southern Bastards. You get to the end of the first arc, and there's this massive paradigm shift, and everything changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes, but the characters don't even know that. So is it difficult at this point to talk about it so far into its run without spoiling it.
It is hard, but when we're at shows, we have the 2 trade paperbacks.
Yeah.
And so that front cover of that second trade paperback kind of gives it away. It doesn't tell you everything.
Yeah.
But you know a little bit about it, and it's just hard to avoid at
That's
this
true.
point.
Or even like if, for Appetite for Destruction #1, which just came out last Wednesday, which we have on the shelves, you look at that cover, or even like the flyer that we're using is the cover, and something is vastly different from
Right.
from what we were describing. So is it, we're not going to do it now, but is it like, if people are a little bit like into it, do you then feed them more about, well, here's what's going on now, kind of like to
I do. I mean,
seal it?
I usually, when I give that high concept pitch,
Yeah.
usually people love that, and it's enough. Or they don't really like it, and then I'll try a little bit something else.
Yeah.
Talk about the characters a little bit more, about the story a little bit more. But I don't spend that much time because I feel like they're either gonna get it or not get it, or sometimes I'll open up the book and show them a page. Because there's a particular spread I like to show people
Okay.
too.
I was going to ask if it was a very like any page or specific.
I do, especially if they're interested in the cooking and the dinosaur thing.
Yeah.
Because I also tell them there's recipes in every issue, which there's recipes in every issue. With dinosaur meat, and then we tell you the substitute meat so that you can make the recipe.
If you can't get dinosaur meat.
If you can, come to Challengers, give Pat your name because I want to come over.
Definitely.
But yeah, so it's crazy because I didn't know how people would take the switch in tone, the change in the story, but
Yeah.
people seem to really like it because they are constantly surprised by a book. I feel like they can't predict anything that's going to happen, even though the story progresses logically. But we're juggling a lot of things, so it's hard to do that. But hopefully, we've done that successfully. And, I'm just really proud of the way that we're able to merge these different genres into the one.
I mean, I never saw it coming. When I first read issue 1 of volume 1, I never saw it coming. I was invested in the characters already, but I had no idea that was what this was going to be about. Was it always conceived as a start, a middle, and an end kind of, like the end of volume 3 was where you knew you were going all along?
Yes.
Or can it continue if you choose to, or is this done?
Well, the first part, yes, I conceived it that way. I knew all the main story beats. I had written out, the entire template for what the book was going to be from start to finish for the first 3 volumes. And then I also write character sheets for each one. So it's, who they are, what they want, how they're going to get there. So that every time that I write an issue, I think about that. Is this a place to put it in there? So the middle sometimes is different than how I plan it.
Sure.
When I start an issue, I know, usually I write the beginning and I write the end. And then the middle, I kind of write the characters, and sometimes it changes. And sometimes I move things around. I know these different story beats. Sometimes it moves around.
Sure. And the characters will tell you if you're doing something wrong, right? Like they will say like, no, this is not, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and there's a few ideas, of course, that came into play that I might not have had in the beginning.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end of this new series,
Okay.
where I'm trying to tie up loose ends with things and all of the subplots that I've introduced. And I had a plan for that, but how you get to from point A to point B isn't always the same as what you originally planned.
Sure. I mean, like they say, it's the journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part of writing, to be
Sure.
honest. Now, can it go on? Yes. I have at least 3 stories for the characters who
Okay.
survive. You don't know what's
right,
going to
sure.
happen in it. But it just wouldn't be called Voracious. So we say this is going to be the end of this story arc as we conceived it. But I think I have some really good, strong ideas for the characters down the road. And in the last issue, I actually outline a couple of those.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I don't know if we'll get to do those or when we'll get to them. Because Jason and I want to do some other things outside of the Voracious universe, but I would love to come back and do those stories.
So you mentioned Jason, your co-creator and artist, Jason Muhr. How did he get involved in this project?
Oh, this is a really great story. So
All right, let's hear it.
When
I'll tell you. It's great.
all right, you give me a rating from 1 to 10.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Okay, so I moved here from New York in 2000.
Okay.
One of the first things I had to do when I came out here was find a comic book shop.
Of course. Yeah.
So I found Graham Crackers out in Glen Ellen, I think that's
Glen Ellen.
or Wheaton.
Well, actually,
I
no.
don't
Okay,
remember.
both of those cities had stores at one point. Yeah.
Right, and it changed. Actually, I think
Yeah.
it got bought, and then it wasn't a Graham Crackers anymore.
Okay, that was the Glendale Heights one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Bloomingdale, then it moved to Glendale Heights, then it got bought.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went there. Jason was working there. He was
Okay.
like 15 years old or something, very young. I sort of was dabbling in writing. I mean, I've been a writer all my life, but I was dabbling in comic book writing. There was a contest online to write a story for The Authority, which I know you know, with a great Warren Ellis,
Sure,
Brian Hitch.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote a short story for that, and I won the contest, and I had the script. Jason was looking to go to college to be an artist. So I gave him the script that I wrote so he could practice.
Sure.
He did a few pages, and then he was off to college. And I didn't see him or talk to him for another maybe 10 years, something like that. But the owner the manager at the time, when it was Graham Crackers, Bobby, he wanted to develop a comic book. And so he asked me to co-write it with him, and also another guy was involved as well. So we had this story, and we were going back and forth on it, but it just wasn't really working because 3 writers is a lot of writers. I had a completely different idea of how it should go.
Yeah.
So I told Bobby, I think you should write it. If you want me to look it over, that's fine, but it was your idea. So I got it, but I have to jump off this project. But in the process of that, he had given some of the character ideas and story elements to Jason to draw sketches of the characters. And so I saw some of those, and they were really good. He had gotten a lot better since art school. And so when that project fell apart, I don't think Bobby ever wrote it. I haven't heard about it since.
Was the third guy Craig Parton?
No, his name's Joe.
Oh, okay.
So after that, I contacted Jason and said, this project doesn't seem like it's going to get off the ground, but I have some other ideas for comic books. Do you want to meet up and have lunch and a beer, and we could talk about them, and maybe we could work on something together? So that's what we did. And so we met up, had some beers, had some lunch, and I pitched him a few ideas, but Voracious was the one he liked the most, and it's the one that I want to do the most. And while we were there...
I mean, if you're a just starting out artist and you get a dinosaur story, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I pitched him the high concept pitch, like you and I gave,
yeah.
But then I also gave him the twist. And that's what really sold me. He already liked it from the beginning, but when I gave him the twist that happens at the end of volume 1, he's like, I have to do this. And then at that meeting, I also gave him back his original art that he had done for that Authority story. He completely forgot. I saved it all those years.
Excellent.
Yeah, he didn't even remember. So that's how we started. And then we just started meeting up and discussing it. I wrote a script, and then I always wanted Jason to be very closely involved in the collaboration. So
sure,
he was free to give any ideas he wanted to. When we came up with the characters and everything, he would draw the sketches, and we work it out together. And
that's why I'm cognizant of saying co-creators as opposed to writer-artist, because it is your collective book.
Yeah, in the truest sense. I don't know that there's as many writers and artists that co-create or co-collaborate like Jason and I do.
Yeah.
So in the scripts, I don't even have to write the descriptions of the characters because we've already developed them together. So yeah, it's been a blast. I love working with that guy.
Nice. And it was such a weird experience for me for the first time you guys signed here, because obviously I knew you. I didn't know that I knew him because he reminded me, he's like, yeah, we used to work together. I would come with Bobby for transfers, and I still have no recollection of that. But I'm an old man, Markisan. I don't have a recollection of a lot of things. Same thing happened with there's another in Chicago, another younger artist, Craig Cermak. Same exact story, but substitute Bolingbrook for Glendale Heights. Now he's a working comics artist, right. And he's like, yeah, don't you remember I used to work? I'm like, I don't remember that at all, but that's
well,
great.
No offense to Jason, but he's kind of a generic-looking white guy. I'm a brown metalhead. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to remember me with a weird name.
You have a look and an impact. Jason has to draw to be like, yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So wait, Pat, now what do you give the story?
8. I give the story 8.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I gave it a little more because I knew most people involved, so it was very relevant to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a solid 8.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it might have gotten a 9 if you would have talked about what you had for lunch that first meeting. That might have,
I don't remember that.
Okay.
No.
Write it. Just make it up. Embellish it. because that's what I'm interested in.
The lunch.
What you ate while this was coming about. Because I wanted to segue into, well, not segue into it, but eventually talk about the recipes in the back and how you decide which dinosaur meat corresponds to which actual meat, and if you think say, eating an herbivore is a better culinary experience than eating a meat eater.
Okay.
Based off of what the dinosaurs are raised on. And but anyway, that's when we get more deep into. Well, no, we'll talk about it now. Who cares? I'm not gonna. Again, if I forget about it, you mentioned there's recipes in the back, actual recipes that are written by you and people in the back of each issue, and that there's dinosaur meat in them. But then they tell you what to substitute. How do you decide? Like, I don't want to ruin the magic. I don't want to say, like, if you get a beef stew recipe, do you get that first and then say, which dinosaur can I put into it? Or do you think, what's a good recipe for a diplodocus? Like, how does it, what comes first, the meat or the dinosaur?
The meat comes first. Yeah, it's something I always want to do from the very beginning, is put the recipes in there. So it's cool because it started off with my recipes, my friends' recipes, and now we have actual chefs giving us recipes, which is really cool. So it depends. When I first started doing it myself and I was writing the recipes, okay, I have this recipe, I want to do it. Now I have to find a dinosaur to put in it. And I think I started off by just trying to put a dinosaur that was in the book.
Okay.
So,
which makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
and then
it's a good tie.
Right. And then it wasn't, I have no idea what they taste like. Nobody knows, right?
Chicken, I assume, a lot.
Well, who knows? I don't know. Everybody says that to me, but birds are descended from dinosaurs, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different kinds of birds.
That's true.
Chicken doesn't taste like turkey. Ostrich is red meat.
Yeah, that's true.
So all those dinosaurs
And penguin
taste
is so
different.
fatty. I mean, I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Pelican is probably super gross because it eats garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you were talking about grass-fed. I'm sure, the herbivores are probably taste really good compared to some of the carnivores, but who knows?
What have you sampled a lot of big game?
I have. I've had a lot of different kind of things. It's true. Yeah, I've had elk, bear.
Ooh, bear. What is bear? Is bear good?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was quite good.
I wonder if it depends on if it's like pre-hibernation bear or post-hibernation bear. Like how more tender the meat is.
That I don't know. I just know it was pretty tasty. I had a bear sausage, and it was quite delicious.
I feel like it's hard to make a bad sausage.
Right. I've also had a bear burger.
Okay.
That's the only I've never had like a bear steak,
There used to be a restaurant, I'm pointing, which is always great for a podcast, down that way, called New, K-N-E-W, and it was just a big game restaurant. I don't think they're there anymore. But we did, Dal and I answered questions for the owner's daughter for a science project, so he gave us gift certificates. And it wasn't anything that exotic, but it was the most big game on a menu of a restaurant I'd ever been to. Mm-hmm. And my only exotic animal eating has been like alligator. And everyone's had alligator. And plus, I don't know that it was alligator. It was at Taste of Chicago. So how authentic was it? I don't know. Honest to God, tasted like chicken. It was a little alligator kebab. It looked and tasted like chicken.
It's a little tougher probably, right?
I mean, it wasn't, though. That's what made me think it wasn't. And
nice.
it was also
so
white. It was a white meat.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell. But it was on a stick, and I'm sure it was like, I don't know, added
That's how they
grease or
usually
something.
do it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, frog legs. Had frog legs. Didn't care for them.
Yeah.
I specifically, frog legs was a place around the corner that way. I can't remember which one, though, but they specifically said, we took the bones out. I'm like, great. They did not. It was full of bones.
Yeah.
Like, why would you tell me that? Like, I understand how hard it is to get the legs out. I wouldn't have expected the legs to be out, but you said there's no bones.
Mm-hmm. Have you had snake?
I've not had snake.
It's pretty good, too.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried a lot. I mean, the only thing I won't try is kitties, because I love kitties.
Okay. I would be happy to know that people are eating cat. I don't know if I'd eat, but would you eat big cat? Would you eat lion? Would you eat tiger?
No, they're kitties.
Okay.
They're just big kitties.
Interesting.
But dogs, sure.
I think I would.
Dogs,
I love dogs.
Yeah, fine.
Oh, come on. Like, I think babies would be delicious. Absolutely. I saw this adorable but funny meme where it was 4 rows of single dinner rolls, and the third one was a really fat baby's arm with its big fat rolls, and it fit in perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
I think babies are delicious.
That's wild and a little disturbing.
I mean, we've eaten everything else. It's just the morality of eating people that we don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Have you ever eaten a turtle?
Yes.
Michelangelo?
Not that.
All right.
He's probably a little too sinewy. He's pretty muscled.
Exactly.
And he just eats pizza all the time. That can't be good for the meat.
So what is you? Obviously, you cook. Mm-hmm. You have your own. What's if you're cooking for you and your wife? What are you making for dinner? Like, if you don't have a lot of time to think about it, but the ingredients aren't an issue. You have everything at home. It's like, hey, today we're just going to have, I don't know, pork chops.
Yeah, well, my wife wouldn't eat that. She stays away from red meats and pork. She will eat it from time to time,
okay.
But she mostly will eat chicken and vegetables. So we go to the farmer's market, and we have a CSA. So we pick up vegetables from Henry's farm every week.
Okay.
And a quick recipe that I like to do is just to take chicken and some of the different vegetables and put it. I have an Instant Pot, which is amazing. Pressure cooker.
The really modern day slow cooker.
Yeah, and so I was very skeptical of it when I first got it, but man, does it cook really well. So I make an herb chicken. Okay. So I might season the chicken, maybe even the night before, maybe marinate it in some kind of herbs and some oil, and then just throw it in the pot with the vegetables. And
so we'll get to know each other really well.
Yeah, and then just put it over some noodles.
Nice.
And that's a really quick recipe that I like to do. Same thing, we like eating tacos a lot. So
sure,
I'll
who
make
doesn't?
that. Yeah.
I assume soft shell.
Yeah, usually, soft shell, burrito shells usually.
Did you have tacos as a kid?
That's a good question. We must have, but they were always hard shell.
Exactly, that was my point. Soft shell wasn't a thing when we were kids. It was always
ground beef.
It was always ground beef. It was that weird that stack of the way they were sold in the grocery stores at the time, and it was so that was always a taco. And now the idea of a hard shell taco is not appealing, but that's not what I want. Yeah, they're always just too messy.
Yeah, I mean, unless you do the double. Like you put it in the taco shell and then you wrap it in a soft shell. It's probably like a crunch wrap or something at Taco Bell.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't eat at Taco Bell, but I'm sure they do.
Because there aren't that many around here. There are more now, but I was still hit at Taco Bell drive-thru just for the chicken soft tacos because it's it's fine. It's fine.
I don't think I've eaten there in like 10 years or something, but I think I got the grilled burrito maybe.
Okay.
And actually, Taco Bell actually taught me that. So we make burritos and tacos. I'm like, I want to grill it like they do at Taco Bell. And
sure, why not?
I throw it on a pan and grill it, and it's great. Throw a little butter in there, a little oil, and it's awesome. I never would have thought of that without
Taco Bell. Sure.
Yes.
Dal, Samantha, and I were coming back from a Chicago Ridge, a Ring of Honor wrestling show, and it was when Taco Bell had just introduced their new chicken fried triangle things. Like they were, I don't know, like Doritos but chicken. Mm-hmm. So we're like, we got to try those. So we swing through a drive-through, and I'm ordering. I'm like, can I get some cinnamon twists as well? And it's just a high school kid on the menu. And by the way, this is a wonderful topic for a comic podcast. But he's like, what? I'm like, can I order a cinnamon twist as well? We haven't had those in 10 years. Well, I clearly don't go to Taco Bell all that often.
Right. I actually, this is news to me.
Yeah, right?
So thanks. In case I ever go there, I can't get cinnamon twists.
I think they're back now, but at that point. But
they were on hiatus for a little bit there.
But it's because I wanted it, I don't know, whatever. And those chicken triangle things were a novelty. It's like, all right, we tried them. We'll never order these again.
People, they always come up with those little novelty things. People always want to try them. They're never that good.
Yeah.
That's why they don't survive.
But it got us to go to Taco Bell, and we were trying to order other stuff as well. So there's that. I said trying because it wasn't there.
Right. Well, you mentioned wrestling. We got to do a side on that a little bit.
Sure.
So you went to Ring of Honor. What did you think? What do you think of AEW?
Oh, I think AEW is the freshest, most exciting thing to happen in quite a long time.
Yeah.
I think that All In last year was the best wrestling show I've ever seen. And I know you can't compare it because it wasn't AEW, and this is. And Double or Nothing was good, but not All In level because AEW now has to establish who they are and who their stars are. And I didn't know a lot of the people on Double or Nothing, whereas I knew most of the people on All In. and I know they couldn't get a lot of them back or what have you. So I'm excited to see where they go, but I didn't feel, and I'm going to take a lot of crap for this, I didn't feel the production and the layout of the card was groundbreaking or different than a normal televised wrestling pay-per-view event.
I agree with that, actually. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But they've been billing it as this is wrestling for another generation, the next generation, right? And it didn't feel like that. It just felt like I was watching WWE.
Yeah, just minus backstage interviews.
Right.
Which I'm fine with.
Right.
Like,
and the matches were really good.
Yeah, definitely. And they were given length. I appreciate that. Yeah. Do you watch NXT?
I don't, not often.
Okay. There was a card from this weekend which was stellar. It was their 25th takeover, and they only had 5 matches, so they all had room to breathe. And there was a ladder match, which was okay, but the 4 regular matches were all 4 to 5 star matches, top notch.
Wow.
But like, I don't care about stories. I care about storytelling in the match, but I don't care about the history so much. I just want to be entertained, and I don't want to feel like I'm missing out for not following a weekly product, because I don't know that I'll watch AEW weekly. I'll try, but I love watching New Japan because they don't expect that you know what's happening.
Right.
They just give you matches. Now, don't get me wrong, half of the roster in New Japan is terrible. Your Bad Luck Fales, I won't keep basically most of what remains of the Bullet Club. But I think the Young Bucks are the best tag team wrestling today. I think Lucha Bros are also phenomenal, even though they're not officially AEW. Fine. I think Kenny Omega always puts on a good match, although I think that he is, I don't want to say overrated, that sounds mean, but people rave about him, and I think he's an amazingly solid performer who always gives it all, but he never blows my mind.
Right.
And I'm tired of Chris Jericho just doing hardcore matches. Like, Chris Jericho was one of my favorite cruiserweights of all time. Mm-hmm. And the second he goes for a chair now, I'm like, man, come on. I understand you're 48 years old. I get it. I know you're trying to cut. Let's like the Cody and Dustin match. Like, they knew, like, hey, we're not going to out-wrestle anybody on this card, but we're going to give spectacle.
Some of the moves there were pretty snazzy, I got to say.
Especially for a guy who lost, like, 16 gallons of blood.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a great match. I watched it a couple times.
I was horrified by, like, you see it happen. You see when Dustin blades. Mm-hmm. But the impact of the turnbuckle is not enough to gash your head multiple times all the way across.
No.
Like, calm down. Then the announcer tried to cover with, oh, Brandy used her heel to dig in. Like, that is not how that happens.
Right.
And then just watching the blood pour out of his head, I felt
that was a lot of blood.
Excessive.
It was a lot.
And I thought Dustin was going to die. I was a huge fan of Goldust when he first debuted. Yeah. I loved Goldust. I don't even know why. And this is still, just the black eyes and the long wig and the Oscar quotes. Like, I had, when I was working at Downers Grove, I had a Goldust action figure at the counter at all times.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame what WWE did with him. He just became a joke.
Or what they didn't do with him.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with AEW on television. I think they're going to have to find their footing. Yeah. But I'm definitely going to give it a shot.
And, like, they were, like we got it in 15 minutes early. Like, well, I thought it was 45 minutes over. I mean, were you always going to 11 o'clock? I don't know.
Yeah.
I was also I was going out to my buddies Mike in Aurora, and leaving it. I was working until 5, honestly. So I couldn't get to him by 6. I'm like, well, I'm not worried. Like, at All In, the Battle Royal, which I really wanted to see, was the second part of the opening hour. Well, this was at the start, so I missed the first. I got to his house when the third group of 5 was coming to the ring. Mm-hmm. Luckily, it was all up on. The pre-show was up on YouTube after, so I got to see it again. Right. But I just missed everybody. And I missed the entrances. I don't like the groups of 5 at a time. Right. But
see, and I like story. You mentioned you didn't like as much, but I like that part, probably because I'm a writer.
Sure.
But I like the story, and they haven't been very good at WWE. So I hope they do some better storylines at AEW. And I hope WWE, as a result of having the competition, makes better stories and better matches.
I think I don't like storylines because I never believe them because they're always bad. It's a hard line to cross, and we can pull this back into comics because you want to make believe there's a reason for these people to fight. Like, I hate it when they just do, we're going to have a four-corner match to see who is the new challenger for the head. I hate that. I want there to be a reason why this person has a title shot. But I hate so much of the story elements where they don't do it as much anymore, but, The Undertaker trying to embalm Stone Cold Steve Austin, or the weird, creepy necrophilia angle with Kane and things like that. Mm-hmm. Like, the stories can be relevant, but also wrestling related. You can have the normal, this person turned on this person wants revenge kind of thing. That's fine. But it's also hard to do it when you have to presume, let's say you and I are in a feud and you attack me from behind on a Monday, that I don't see you again until next Monday. Like, I don't seek you out. Like,
I'm not taking you out at your apartment.
Yeah, exactly. We live in the same city. Like, Braun Strowman's not going to hunt down Sami Zayn wherever he is in the world. Right. You're just going to wait till he's in the building for the next live event or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I hate one of the things I don't like is the monster build-up for the monster characters, like your Braun Strowmans. And so for AEW, we had the women's three-way match with Kylie Ray and Britt Baker and Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose. Yeah. And Nyla Rose was the monster. Well, then you bring in Awesome Kong, who is a monster. So that kind of cancels out Nyla Rose. And then, I don't know. Also, I didn't know that Britt Baker was dating Adam Cole from NXT. And on the NXT thing over the weekend, she was in the front row. You could see her. And I wonder if the WWE knew that. Like, normally I think they would ban her from the building, the way they block AEW shirts and stuff like that.
I don't know. Who knows?
But there was a point where they were showing Stephanie McMahon on camera, and if she is turtle here, Britt Baker's right over her shoulder. Weird.
Oh, sorry to take you down the wrestling path.
It's quite all right. I think there's a huge crossover between comic fans and wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Because good against evil, flashy costumes, usually very in shape competitors, and storylines.
Right.
Yeah. It's just that the WWE is Marvel.
Right.
And Marvel has some great books and a whole lot of terrible books. And the WWE has great performers and a lot of terrible storylines. And I know everybody can't be over at the same time, but how do you just say, like, I'm sorry, we don't have anything for you?
I do read a lot more Marvel books than I do DC books, though.
Do you?
Yes. Okay. I don't read a ton of superhero stuff in general, but I definitely read more Marvel stuff. Thor, Captain Marvel.
Thor's been great for years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know the story of the mead.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But tell it.
Well, and this actually ties into Voracious a little bit. So years ago, maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was a Morrison Con for Grant Morrison out in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I went to it, and it was one of the best comic book conventions I've ever been to because it was more focused on you hanging out with the creators and about like how you create comic books, and it was about, hey, here's the next big thing that you need to buy. And you would play games like Cards Against Humanity with the actual creators.
Nice.
There. And Jason Aaron was one of the guests for the show. And I knew that he was writing Thor because it was announced, but the book was not out yet.
Okay. That's a good pinpoint for the time period of this story.
Yes. And this is before I was writing comics, any comics.
But not before you had the ideas for writing comics in your head.
No, I had the idea for it for sure. It was Morrison Con that really inspired me to want to create, because there was a bunch of creators out of Morrison Con, just like fans who went there, who decided they were going to create their own book, and they did an anthology book. I wasn't in that book. Okay.
I never knew about the anthology, I don't think.
Yes. So people were very inspired by going there and talking to all the big creators, and wanted to do their own projects. But Jason Aaron's there. I make my own mead. And so I brought
Which I've had before and is delicious.
So thank you. Yeah, I haven't made it in some time, but...
well, you got till the 22nd.
That's true. So I brought him a bottle of mead, and he had never tasted mead before in his whole life.
Had you brought it specifically for Jason Aaron?
Specifically for Jason Aaron. I tracked him down in a club because they had a club. It was all in one hotel. I think it was the Hard Rock. I think it was.
I think it was as well.
I think it was. And so they had a club in the basement. So he was there, and I brought him the mead, and we drank mead together. And he thought it was great. And I told him, listen, you're writing Thor. You have to put mead in the book.
Now, I mean, I got to tell you, I think just based off of the way mead has been portrayed in fiction, before I ever had it, I had a whole different idea in my head of what it was. And I thought it was going to be like thick and gross. And I mean, it's called Nectar of the Gods, but you don't think it's going to be sweet. I thought it was going to be this thing that was not for me.
Right.
And it's not. It's good.
Yeah, for people who don't know, it's a wine made from honey, but it kind of has a kick of a harder alcohol. So, and mead can come in different varieties. It doesn't have to be sweet. I like the sweet variety, but there's a lot more dry, subtle meads. A lot of times people mix mead with fruits. They mix it with cider. There's even mead and beer mixed together called braggot, which I've had too. So there's a lot of different kinds. People put spices in it. I think I brought Jason Aaron a regular mead. Okay. I didn't know if he had ever had it before. So I took his mead virginity, and then it was in the book. He gave me a shout out in the book, but mead's like in every single issue, and I like to think I'm responsible for that.
I have a much smaller story like that, but I also took some of his alcoholic virginity.
Oh yeah?
He was here for a signing for the Thor Annual #1, and the night before we went out to Club Lago, my favorite hangout. And I wanted to give him a very specific Chicago experience.
Oh, no.
So
I know what you're talking about.
So it was...
Malort.
It was Malort. And he hated it.
Of course.
Hated it so much that to this day, if I ever have it, I just send him a picture of it. And he'll text back just all caps, no. Or somebody had sent a great, list of rejected Malort slogans that I sent to him, and it was stuff like, Malort, because today is the day you fight your dad. Stuff like that.
It's horrible.
Malort, because you can't kick your own ass. Things like that.
That's great.
But yeah, so his experience with you was pleasurable.
Yes.
His experience with me was the opposite.
Yes. Yeah, he always remembers me and the mead whenever I see him, so it's cool. Yeah, he gave me his card that day, and he's like, because I'm a big Thor fan, I have been since I was little, and if there's anything that you like in the history of Thor, or if there's something comes up that you don't like in the book, or you think that I don't got right, just let me know.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Have you ever had a call to be like, well, Jason?
No, man. I mean, listen, he started off with that God Butcher storyline, which is one of my favorites ever.
Which is right up your alley.
It's perfect.
He started writing that before he even knew you, but he wrote that for you.
Pretty much, yeah. And I've loved Thor ever since.
Sure.
Even when, I don't want to spoil it. I guess it's been a long time. Even when somebody else took over the mantle of Thor, I'll do it without.
You mean Better Red Bill?
Yeah. With Simonson, I mean, that's like the holy grail right there.
Yeah, but is it anymore? Historically, if you look back now, no one's had a longer run than Aaron, and no one has had... Are you a Doctor Who fan?
Yes.
Jason Aaron, and this is a bad comparison, but Jason Aaron is Stephen Moffat, because Stephen Moffat made the most changes to the Doctor Who canon. And Jason Aaron has made the most changes. The difference is I like all of Jason Aaron's changes, and they're setting the status quo. Like this is Thor now. And you look back, obviously Kirby, the most influential run. Simonson, the most influential run of the 80s. But I think you can say Aaron now has the run on Thor.
Of all time, you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying of all time.
Yeah, I mean that's a hard one, because when Simonson stuff was coming out, I was at a more influential age.
Okay.
So you have the nostalgia factor for that part of it.
And no one forgets that the Better Ray Bill crashing with storms, crashing the logo cover. Yeah.
Right. I mean, or Surtur, just when he just comes into it.
Sure.
And just the art, I just loved it. And there was a lot of cool mythology that he put into it that I really liked. And a lot of it was set on Asgard, which I also really enjoyed. So same thing. I mean, Jason Aaron, he mixes it up too. There's a lot of that stuff's on Asgard. So it's hard for me to say. I think it's an epic run, and it's up there with the best.
What about Straczynski?
Oh, where he...
I mean, he had a lengthy run on it.
Yeah.
And he's the one who brought Asgard to Earth.
I remember that, and he was like out in the desert or something. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think I enjoyed it.
Okay.
But it's not as a memorable a run to me as Jason Aaron's or
That was a
Simon's
point in time where Marvel would rest characters.
Right.
The way you rest wrestlers.
Yeah.
The way it's like, all right, we don't have any good ideas for Thor now. Rather than just have to put out a Thor comic, let's put him aside. And there was a long rumored Mark Miller, I can't remember the artist, like Mark Miller, Steve McNiven, Thor book that was supposed to come out. But then Marvel said, no, this isn't right for us. And they didn't do it. And I don't think it was ever made and not put out. I just think like they were scheduled to do a Thor book, then Marvel canceled it. And then then we waited and we got the Straczynski one, and I think Straczynski and Coipel out of the gate was a great book. It gave him a newer, sleeker look. It gave him the long armor sleeves and a smaller helmet. But I thought without it, we wouldn't have gotten all the stuff we have now. Mm-hmm. There was a point in the 80s where Alan Zelenis was writing Thor, and he was based in Chicago. And I was just telling the story to somebody last week where, as a kid reading Thor in Chicago, I thought, no, I don't see Thor. He's not up in my sky. Thor's not from Chicago. It doesn't work. Right. Yeah, for a brief period of time, Thor was based in Chicago.
Right.
Such a weird thing.
It is weird, but it's good that there's different writers and artists. They try something a little different with a character. It might not always succeed, but you don't know if
Dan
it's Dan
Jurgens and John Romita Jr. Their run.
Yeah, I love that run.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, with the Dark
fun.
Gods.
Yeah.
I really liked it. It was like the 1 through 25. I really liked that one, actually. Yeah, and John Romita Jr.'s art. Now, see, he's another one that I'm very nostalgic for because one of the first comics I ever collected was Daredevil, written by Ann Nesenti.
Oh,
and
sure.
Romita Jr.'s on there. And Daredevil's my favorite character of all time, and it's mostly because of Ann Nesenti's writing and John Romita Jr.'s art. So he would be like one of my all-time favorite artists. Plus, he's just, he can put out a monthly book easily, and his quality, I've seen it dip a little on some books, but then he'll rise it back up to another level. But it's never
I'm
to
worried
a point
about
where
his
it's too sketchy.
Superman Year One stuff coming out.
Oh, with the Frank Miller.
It doesn't look great.
Yeah.
But, I have the same nostalgia you have for him, but mine was because of Iron Man. When he was
a
David
great run,
Michelinie,
too.
John Romita Jr., Bob Layton.
Yep.
Yeah, like that was, yeah.
And what do you think, now, Pat? I feel like some of these artists look better on newsprint.
Oh, 100%.
John Romita looks way better on newsprint.
100%. Like, I love the fact that DC has gone back to a thicker newsprint. Mm-hmm. It's still a bleached paper, but it's not glossy. Yeah, I completely agree.
Like Scott McDaniel comes to mind. His run on Nightwing, way better than when they put it on glossy. It lost some of the texture.
I also think, especially as Scott McDaniel and John Romita Jr., but especially Scott McDaniel, benefits from flatter colors.
Right.
Like, coloring today is such an art form. Like, these people aren't colorists, they're painters.
Right.
They're digital painters. And who's coloring Voracious?
Andrea Tabacari.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff that she's adding.
It's a he.
Oh.
He's from Romania and he's vegan.
Wow. All right. He's doing a dinosaur book. Perfect. There's a lot of stuff he's adding to the art that isn't there, which I think that today it should, credits should read line artist, color artist, because they're doing so much.
Yeah, Jason and I agree with that as well, because he does bring a lot to the book. Jason's black and white art is fantastic, but Andre, brings it to another level. He's definitely an artist on the book. Some of the backgrounds and stuff that he puts in, just the way the colors play off of each other, it's almost like he's telling a story with this.
There's a lot of depth, dimensionality, tone, and shadow that he's adding that, normally it's the inker's job, in this case, which is Jason, to tell you, where the light source is, where shadows are going to fall, but he's definitely giving it a full. That's why I said it's digital painting. It's not. Yeah. But I think a Scott McDaniel, flat colors look great with his work.
Yes.
I do miss that. I think that while we have almost an embarrassment on the amount of amazing color artists that are working today, I think that a lot of them don't have to do as much as they do.
I mean, some of them are really good at bringing out the colors that you remember from the past. They could do any kind of a palette because they just have that versatility in their arsenal. But you're right. For the most part, you see a lot of more bright colors that don't always work well with each artist. But you think the artist would have a say in that. I don't know how it works with the bigger two. If like the editors are hiring the colorist or, you know.
I can answer that for you. The editors are hiring the colorist unless the artist has a specific colorist they want to work with. And it's very rare for the pencil artist or the colorist to talk. It's usually the colorist saying, hey, I have a question about this one thing. Otherwise, they just do what they do, and it'll be the editor that says, change this or not. There's a Jimmy Olsen book coming out from DC by Greg Rucka and Mike Perkins, and Paul Mounts is coloring it. But Mike Perkins is a very realistic noir artist, and Paul Mounts is a wonderful superhero artist, although he's been doing darker stuff on the Hulk right now, the Immortal Hulk book. I saw his pages on Lois Lane, blew me away. He takes the best of what he does and the best of what Mike Perkins does, and it's a really grim and gritty, dark noir with a full color palette, which is a thing that I didn't think we could do. Yeah. And it's amazing. And I mean, you look at a colorist today like Jordi Belair springs to mind as one of the most prolific and most lauded colorists of the day. And Tamara Bonvillain is now the same way, where she's getting a lot of higher profile books and a lot of acclaim for them.
Yes.
And it's amazing to me how colorists who I feel are almost working not harder than the line artists, but putting more on the page just because they're covering in everything. But they also seem to be so much faster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I noticed just from doing our book, it's a lot of artists don't do backgrounds.
Yeah.
Jason does a lot of. In the beginning, he didn't do as many backgrounds, but as the book progressed, wow, he does a lot of detailed backgrounds. And Andre got better too with the subtle colors that he puts in for each thing. And we talked actually this tape that I gave you. So for the Kickstarter that we did a cassette tape, and it has an interview on it with me and Jason, and then it has a commentary for Voracious Appetite #1, and we got Andre on there.
Oh, nice.
So it's the three of us. That's the whole team doing
And how does she sound? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. That's terrible.
He's got an awesome accent. It's pretty sexy.
How did you find him?
Well, man, finding a colorist is difficult.
And has he been on all three books?
All three, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, same team on all the books. When we first started out, Jason had a bunch of message boards and had an account on DeviantArt, and so we put a call out for colorists. And we got a colorist who worked for Image, and he was working on our book, but he didn't finish it. And his colors didn't look that good, and he's like, I'll finish it in the next few weeks, and I won't charge you anything. I said, listen, I appreciate that, but I need somebody who's going to be on time. And the colors just weren't working with the Voracious 2, so we had to fire that guy, and then we had to start again with a search. So I said, Jason, let me handle it. What I'm going to do, I know what you like, because Jason and I, we're very tight. We worked on this so much. I know what kind of colors he wants on the book, what he wanted to see. So I went out and actually looked for colorists on some of these sites like DeviantArt just to see people and what they were doing and get samples of them. And I found Andre. And he lives in Romania. He's done some Romanian comic books, but he's never done anything over here. And Jason and I were working on Voracious, but there was an anthology that was coming out called Lightning Strike in Ireland, and they were looking for a short horror story. So I had an idea for it. It's called Never Alone. If you go to my website, markisan.com, you can actually read it. It's 8 pages.
I like you just got your first name as your domain. That's awesome.
That's all I need, man.
Yeah.
It's such a unique name. Nobody has my name, so why bother with the last? So we gave that to Andre as a test to see how we would work with him, to see what we would bring to that project. And he was just a joy to work with. He was really great. Any suggestions we had, he would make those changes right away. He just brought a real sense of style and played perfectly off of what Jason was doing. It's a moodier art style that he used for that particular story, but we love that because it wasn't what Andre normally did either. But he just naturally made the colors the way they should be on that piece.
That's fantastic.
And so we hired him for Voracious, and we've loved working with him ever since. And that interview is the first time we ever talked to him on the phone.
Oh, nice.
We send him messages all the time, but we wanted to get him on something because he hasn't been on the interviews even when we talk about him.
Were you and Jason together at this? Or were you guys all Zencasting it, or what were you doing?
We were all Zencasting it, yeah.
So I have a question unrelated to Zencastr.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, related to Zencastr, unrelated to Voracious, because I started using it after I talked to you about
cool.
it. I have had the same problem every time where the person I'm talking to, like their channel, speeds up. So the 2 tracks aren't the correct length at the end, and they when you put them together, mine is longer, so we slowly fall off track during the entire thing.
Oh, that's bizarre.
And I wonder if it's because I'm always headphones, microphone. Each time they've just been using a laptop with a built-in microphone.
Yeah, because it's recording directly from their source.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
So I wonder if
when you're using Skype, you're recording everything right there through your one channel. With Zencastr, yeah, it could be their equipment. I don't know. I've never had that issue.
And I just did a recording with our good friend Mitchell Davies from All Star Comic. His recording, crystal clear, like he's in the room. Mm-hmm. Mine was all distorted and horrific.
Yeah, I think I listened to that one.
Yeah,
it was like it's like your volume setting was too high or something was crackling. What were you using for that? Just
Zencastr.
But what microphone were you using?
Oh, I have a microphone I just use for that kind of stuff, which is a Shure. Oh God, it's got like a celestial name, like a comet or a asteroid or a meteor. It's a meteor mic.
Does it have a gain switch on it?
No, it just has a volume switch.
Okay.
I should probably turn that down, maybe. I don't know. It does not. Literally, it's.
I would turn the volume down a little bit on that and see how that works.
Right? I'm doing some horrible gestures to Markisan right now.
Oh, it's so big.
It's got an insert and just a volume, a push button and a volume knob. That's the only.
I would turn that down because it sounded like your volume was really high.
Okay.
You can always adjust that when you're editing to go higher, but I would turn it low.
Because I couldn't fix that distortion after it was recorded.
Right. You wouldn't be able to fix that part of it. Because I do a lot of editing for casts as well. But on my microphone, I have a Blue Yeti, and it has a gain on it. Okay. And that what happened on you, that's the gain part of it. But I don't know how you would fix that on your microphone. So I'd have to maybe look at it or something. Or maybe Zencastr's is not working for you. Maybe you have to go back to the Skype.
Well, because I was using Pamela, but
okay.
Pamela doesn't mesh with the newest version of Skype for whatever reason.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be honest, I've had troubles every single time. And Pamela I paid for. I upgraded to the full version. Anyway, whatever. I'm just technologically inclined. It's never going to work.
I use the free Skype recorder. You ever use that?
I tried to in the past. I had problems as well. It's got to be just me. I'm bad at it. Those things, they always have issues. I've had issues with every single one. Yeah. But to me, that one's worked the best as far as recording. It's also the easiest, and it's the easiest for your guest.
Yeah.
All they have to do is go to a web to
Zencastr's great.
Yeah.
The format, but if it's not recording the sound quality well for you, maybe send them a message and see what they say.
Okay. Because what I've had to do each time is, luckily, because they're so clear, the channels are so clear, that I just cut and paste all of the conversation. Luckily, there wasn't a lot of talking over each other. There was I would talk, they would talk, so I could say, all right, put that in there. But that's an editing
Yours sounds
issue.
like a microphone issue.
Okay.
I don't know what the other one is. Why the speeds are different. That's weird.
And it's not a lot. It's just enough that you're off by
But it's a lot of editing work. Then.
Yeah. And the first time I thought it was great because I used I'll have them because Zencastr will edit it together for you.
Yes.
So they do that, and I'm like, what is happening? This is so wrong.
Yeah. Fortunately, it gives you the separate tracks too.
Yes. So then that's how I download separate ones and then cut and paste. Anyway, back to Voracious.
Yes.
So the cassette that you had made that we've been talking about, you're going to have this. We're going to raffle this off at your signing on, again, June 22nd.
Yes. Anybody who comes and wants to do the raffle, we'll give it away.
And you can just pick up a copy of the book or have picked up a copy of the book here already.
Yeah, just buy the book. So what we're going to do, or the second issue is going to be out too. Well, are you going to get the second issue, Pat?
Of course.
Okay, so we'll have 2
How
issues.
dare you, sir? Well, the signing's the 22nd. Will the second one be out in time by then?
It comes out next week.
What?
It's in 2 weeks, yeah.
Holy cow, really?
Yeah, yep.
Wow. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll definitely have it.
So anybody who buys the first or second issue, the first 10 people that buy it, we're going to give pins that are here at the store.
That's what it sounds like this.
That's the pin, very crunchy. It's an enamel pin of one of our characters.
Good looking pin.
And then the first 10 people who come to the signing, who either bring a book that they've already purchased or buy the book, we will give a free pin to.
Nice.
And then you get to enter the drawing.
The drawing for the cassette. Obviously, you need a cassette player to listen to it because it's a legit cassette. I, in fact, still do have cassette players.
Yes.
Because that's the way it works. Although I don't have as many of my cassettes. I love it, man. It's a full.
Well, it's called Appetite for Destruction, the name of the new series. So we wanted to do an homage to the Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction cover, which it is, and it came out just glorious.
Yeah,
Jason did it, and
spoons in the background, and yeah.
Well, we always collaborate on the covers, like throw different ideas. I wanted him to do that, and he had an idea, and then I was like, you got to do the skulls, and then put the food behind it, because I think he had it like floating around. I was like,
okay.
You got to make it more like
sure.
It's iconic, and he just
we got tacos, we got hamburgers, we got hot dogs, we got pizza.
Yes.
Nice.
So and it was just a joy to do it. I always wanted to do a cassette. And like I said, it has a commentary for the first issue with all 3 of us, the entire creative team, talking about how we created the book. So you can get a lot of the secrets and what Andre does with the colors on there. And then the other side is an interview that Jason and I did just talking about Voracious, the series. My friend, the captain, did the interview. And it came out great. It sounds good. It looks awesome.
I mean, this is a fully manufactured cassette. This is what it would look like when you would buy a cassette in a store.
Yeah,
in a record
it's a professional cassette.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
In addition, on the cassette, on the insert, there is a recipe from a butcher shop in Oak Park here in Chicago named Carnivore.
Carnivore Inc. in Oak Park at 1042 Pleasant Street.
Yes. And I also give recommendations for a couple restaurants that I really enjoy on the end of the tape.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. By the way, this recipe is for marinated Mosasaurus ribs. But if you need to substitute, you can use pork.
Yes.
I don't even know what a Mosasaurus is.
Well, you got to look it up.
I will. Yeah.
Learn something today, Pat.
I mean, I'm already learning how to make Mosasaurus ribs, so
Yeah, that's true.
so that is a thing.
Yeah, so we did that for the Kickstarter, but we had a few left over, so I thought maybe make a good little raffle.
Nice.
Even if you don't have a cassette player, it's still kind of a cool thing.
It's still a fun promo item.
Yeah.
That's an extra level of thought that you guys put into this book that shows. And so even though this is put out by Action Lab, you're still self-financing most of this.
Yeah, on the front end. I mean, Jason and I, we're co-creators, so I don't pay him, he doesn't pay me. We share all of the expenses.
Sure.
So our main expense is to pay Andre for the colors, because he's not a co-owner in the series. So that's what we usually do the Kickstarter for. And we do our Kickstarters for the entire run, but we never ask for the full amount. We try to get just as much as we can to cover that expense. And of course, when you're a comic book creator, especially a new comic book creator, you have other expenses like going to conventions.
Which you do a lot of. You guys, you have a great setup that always changes together, but then you also split up and do, I think, am I wrong in saying you do a couple more than Jason does?
I do more. I mean, when you're an artist, it takes a lot more time to draw. And he's currently doing a series that's out now, actually, for Zenescope called Dragon's Blood. And he's drawing it. And their deadlines are super tight. Action Lab wants us to have 4 out of the 5 issues done before they solicit.
Okay.
But Zenescope, they solicit while Jason's drawing. So,
wow.
Yeah, he's got to hit those deadlines.
That's not
That's why he's not here right now.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about trying to set the whole thing up, then we realized, no, we're taking time away from Jason doing this if we did it.
Yeah.
Unless we just crashed his studio.
We could. He lives far.
Yeah.
He's out in, I forget the name of that town. It's out near Oswego, though. It's like past Oswego. So for people who don't know, that's at least an hour and a half.
So it's a trek when he comes in to do signings like this.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, he's actually coming next weekend, on the 8th, we're doing a signing at my butcher shop from 1 to 3.
Which is?
It's Homestead Meats in Evanston, Illinois.
Gotcha.
Which is where I live, yeah.
I can easily see people listening to this thinking that you actually owned a butcher shop when you said my butcher shop.
Yes, that's right. Not my butcher shop, just the one I go to and buy meat.
So how do you approach the butcher shop and say, hey, I've been coming here for years. You guys know me. I do this dinosaur comic book. Can I do a signing here? How does that work?
I walked in there one day. I'd been getting meat for a while. I walked in there one day and I had my dinosaur meat shirt on. And it's not a Voracious shirt. It's just one I found online. And they saw it and they loved it. They thought it was great. And then I just segued into me talking about the book. And then they're like, "Whoa, would you want to, come in and do a signing? Maybe we'll make some meat. And,
That's
free
awesome.
samples of meat." And and we had done one with a different butcher shop, Carnivore, who gave us that recipe.
I want free samples of meat at my signing.
Yeah, Carnivore was great too. Now they brought meat to Bucket O' Blood, which is my favorite record store in Chicago.
Sure.
They sell a lot of metal, and I love Grant and Jenny. They're just great owners there. So they wanted to do a signing for Voracious because I go there all the time.
Sure.
And buy records, and so we did it. And they are the ones who brought Carnivore in to have meat because they like to do special events, and they're really in touch with other people in the community, and they do a lot of shared events. And so they knew Carnivore from Oak Park, and they brought in these great pieces of meat, and that was there for people, and we signed the books. And so we'll probably do another one there as well when the trade comes out.
That's great. I mean, that's such a fun added bonus.
Yeah, Pat, we try to do unique things. The book is unique. We have the recipes, so we want to try to do some unique signings or events that no one else really does. So, and the one at Carnivore, and we also signed at Carnivore as well on Father's Day. I think it was last year, maybe a couple years ago. And it went great. We sold so many books because people were like, "What is going on here?"
Sure.
I came here for the lamb, and now I'm coming home with some Voracious.
Lamb of Voracious. That's the beer name. No, that's also
You
terrible.
keep trying to think of names, and they keep being bad.
I know. No, I'm literally doing bad, so whatever yours is won't look as bad in comparison. Because it's time to ask if you thought of a beer name. Or Delicious was yours.
I had Delicious. I haven't thought of it since because
Okay.
you asked me questions, and then I ran into going to that place.
No, this is too much of a pun. Delicious.
That's terrible.
I know. But it's...
Dinolicious?
Nah. I don't know. You know what? Someone will come in. Someone will have listened to this. Someone will come to the signing, and that's what we'll do. We'll see if we can't get Jason to do a quick, like a sketch of a beer bottle with with room on the label for the name.
Okay.
And then people will come in and give suggestions, and the best suggestion, the one that sounds like it'll work the best, will quickly write it on the beer label, and that'll be it.
Okay.
So that way
Jason's really good at coming up with puns. They're also bad because he tried to title some of our trade paperbacks and some of the series, but Appetite for Destruction I knew from the beginning was going to be the third one.
Yeah.
But the first two wasn't sure. Actually, Feeding Time, which is our second volume, was going to be the first one.
Okay.
But then I came up with Diners, Dinosaurs, and Dives for the first trade. Because, the first series is just called Voracious, but when you do the trade, you kind of want to have
exactly.
So, and then that just worked perfectly for the first one, and then I just changed the second one to Feeding Time, which actually makes more sense with the second volume anyways.
Sure. Tell people where they can find you and Jason online.
Well, I am at Markisan.com. That's Markisan. You can find samples of Voracious there. You can read that Never Alone horror story that I mentioned. We have a store up there too where you can buy signed copies of Voracious. Jason Muhr's website is jasonmuhr.com. It's JASONMUHR. And you can see a lot of his work there. I'm also on Twitter at Darth San, and I'm on Instagram at Darth Markisan. And then you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at Voracious Comic. And I believe Jason's Twitter is just Jason Muhr. I think all of his...
I think you're right, yeah.
All of his social media stuff is just Jason Muhr.
Yeah, he was lucky in that regard. We had ours is different on every platform, kind of like yours is.
Yeah.
Challenger's always part of it, but not, little of this, little of that as we go.
Yeah, easy to find him, but not too hard to find me. If you just do a search for Markisan, no one else has my name. So
also, if you just stick your head out the window and listen for the heaviest, darkest metal playing, just follow that sound. You'll find it.
That's usually me. I'm usually there.
Markisan, thank you for coming in, man.
Well,
appreciate you
thanks for
being here.
having
It's always a treat when you're here. And again, that's June 22nd, Saturday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We'll see you then. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.